In this video, I'll teach you the basics of how to get smooth gimbal movements. How's it going? My name is Jussi and this channel is all about filmmaking tips and tutorials and camera gear. If you're watching this, you might be wondering why your favorite filmmakers are getting epic gimbal shots but yours might look very average. Well, don't worry, in this video I'll teach you how to get started to get awesome gimbal shots. So the Ronin S was actually my first gimbal and I felt very overwhelmed when balancing it and setting it up for the first time. But if you follow my instructions and repeat it many times, it's actually pretty simple. Balancing the gimbal is important so that the motors will perform well and there's not gonna be any additional stress to the motors. Because the last thing you want is the gimbal to be off balance and notice some issues with the motors while shooting. When you're balancing your gimbal, make sure to balance all axes one at a time and don't hurry, take your time. The way to know that your gimbal is correctly balanced is when you can leave the camera and the gimbal at any position and it will stay in that position. I also like to calibrate my gimbal every time before shooting, but it's not something that you might necessarily need to do every single time. It's just something I like to do just in case. So like I said, my gimbal is the Ronin S, but you might have a different gimbal, so I'm not gonna go in depth to the settings of the gimbal. Just try to dial down the settings of the gimbal so the gimbal won't respond too fast to your movements and you will get a lot more smooth camera movements. Just try which settings work the best for you and you can even watch a tutorial about the correct settings for your particular gimbal model. The first beginner mistake with gimbals is not doing the proper gimbal walk. When operating the gimbal, you should walk with your knees bent and doing this heel to toe ninja walk. When you do the ninja walk properly, you will completely avoid that ugly up and down movement which looks so amateur. Also, it will help a lot if you hold the handle of the gimbal in a slight angle because that will avoid and balance the up and down movement even more. Also, one thing you should do is utilize foreground to emphasize the movement of the gimbal. The thing is that if you don't use foreground, the shot won't have nearly as much depth and movement even if you do a long gimbal movement. But if you use foreground, even if you do just a small movement, it will emphasize the camera movement and it will look like there's actually a lot more movement going on. First, set the focus to the main subject to avoid that unwanted autofocus hunting which looks so ugly. And the closer you can get to the foreground, the better the results will look. Using leading lines will also make your gimbal shots more interesting because they create depth and they lead your viewers' eyes and look very symmetrical and pleasing to the eye. If you can use a person as the main subject while using leading lines, it will make it even more powerful because the leading lines automatically and subconsciously draw the attention to that person. After practicing, when you feel that you're good enough and comfortable with the basics of using a gimbal, don't be afraid to try new things and be very creative with it. There's a lot of things you can do with utilizing a gimbal and just have fun with it. Also, if you've enjoyed this video so far and want to learn more, I need to ask you for a favor. Please subscribe to my channel and click the bell notification so you will be notified every Monday when I upload a new video, because statistically speaking, most of you who are watching my videos on a regular basis aren't actually subscribed to my channel. So I'd love it if you join this community and be a part of this thing and support my channel. That would mean the world to me. Okay, thanks for watching and see you next Monday again. Take care.